This whole story with the offensive, and specifically with the impatient expectation of some people, when they start, why aren't they attacking, why are they dragging it out, is already frankly annoying. The preparatory part has long been going on, the destruction of logistics, air defense systems and other things, this is one of the stages. Don't forget, the enemy is many times stronger and there are more of them, they have been preparing for this war. Thanks to Russia's total corruption, he was preparing badly. My friends, this is not a soccer game where the teams lost and didn't make it to the semi-finals. So much is at stake, so much depends on it. Hell, everything depends on it, thousands of human lives, the fate of the war, Ukraine, the world, in the end. If Ukraine loses, later the war will spill over to our homes, it is only a matter of time. And this time the enemy will prepare much better, taking into account all his failures. Just remember this, our children and grandchildren will be responsible for our actions. A little patience, there will be an offensive. The final stage will begin when the moment is right and all the variables come together. To understand what Ukrainian warriors can expect, I suggest we take a look at this map. At the end of the video you will be able to look at it in more detail. Finnish Army Reserve officer, Pasi Paroinen has published an impressive analysis of the Russian defensive network and field fortifications of one of the sections of the Zaporizhia front, based on Sentinel and Airbus satellite images. The first serious line of Russian fortifications is located 3 to 5 kilometers from the front line along the villages of Kopany and Rabatine, which are its strongholds. This defense line is 2 to 3 kilometers deep and is tied in with key terrain elements. Between it and the front line are only individual outposts of squads and platoons, as well as company strongpoints. Behind the Kopany-Rabatine line is a zone 4 to 5 kilometers deep with Russian reserve positions and possible decoys. There is a mass of Russian artillery and mechanized reserves in this area, which will maneuver behind the first line of defense. Numerous vehicle and equipment shelters are marked. The second and main line of the Russian fortifications comes next. It passes through the village of Solodka Bolka and stretches for kilometers on either side of it. This line is already 10 to 15 kilometers from the Russian forward positions and is distinguished by massive layered trenches with anti-tank trenches and dragon's teeth, as well as extensive minefields. These fortifications form an almost uniformly continuous defensive belt that runs parallel to the front line and is built to a depth of 3 to 4 kilometers. The Russians can deploy several battalions of infantry along this defensive belt. Following the main defensive line is a zone of reserve and reserve positions, 6 to 7 kilometers deep. And immediately behind it is the town of Tokmak, well fortified by the Russians. The encircling circular anti-tank trenches and strongholds form the last reserve and reserve position of the occupants at a depth of 25 to 30 kilometers from the Russian front line, prepared for all-round defense. The defenses here are also built along the dominant heights. And this is only 15 kilometers of the front of the 850 kilometers battle line and 3,700 kilometers of the total front line, not taking into account the full depth.